want to invite Whitney to be seated up here.
I think it's on.
You're on, all right. I want to thank you for being here because this is a bold step, sitting in front of faces like that. You kind of have some sympathy or now empathy for me as I stand here.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. What I have in mind, and we've talked about this before, is to talk about your own faith journey,
Right.
Your faith story, how your faith developed from when you were young to, you're still young compared to most of these people, so where you are now, though, as a young adult. And then, obviously, camp has been a big part of your own faith development, so I want to talk about that. But before we start, you're a student at the University of Minnesota.
I am.
What year are you right now?
I'm a junior.
You're a junior. It just blows me away that you're a
Third year.
junior already.
Me too.
And what are you studying or are intending to study?
I'm studying communications and art and Spanish.
Communications, art, and Spanish. And what? This is a parent's question. What are you going to do with that?
You know, I'm not sure yet. I'd love to work at camp the rest of my life, but I don't know if that'll work. So we'll have to figure something else out, I guess. So I really don't know yet. Just kind of waiting to see where it takes me.
And you shared with me yesterday that you're hoping to go overseas next semester.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm planning on studying abroad in the fall in London. So.
And perhaps where?
Fingers crossed. In London.
In London,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I hope that works out for you. All right, let's talk about your faith journey.
Right.
Looking way back early, I've known you since you were 5 years old, but in those early years with maybe Sunday school or other things, what were some of those important times of faith nurturing?
Well, definitely Sunday school, just having that foundation in those first early years where you're learning about the stories in the Bible and you're learning about what it means to be a Christian, I think were very important. And having a lot of family in the area, it was always fun to come to Sunday school with my cousins and all my close friends. So that was definitely the first stepping stone for my faith. But yeah, as I got older, I started going to VBS, which is kind of like the camp vibe, and just kind of fell in love with that and fell in love with the songs and singing and just being with other kids and being in that environment. So.
Do you remember some of the adults perhaps that were important in those early years, Sunday school, VBS?
Yeah, I mean, I had some really influential Sunday school teachers. They were all really great. I don't know, I can't pick any out specifically, but yeah, definitely Sunday school teachers and just, I can't even think back that far. Who's even
That's all right.
in charge of stuff.
I remember you telling me about your memories of singing in the old church.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we always used to do like our little Sunday school singing time in the old family room, and those are some of my favorite memories in there. I don't know why, but it always stands out to me. We'd always sit on the couches in there, and yeah, those were.
And then you started someplace in there. We're talking about VBS, and you're getting older. You're in elementary school now.
Right.
When did you first go to camp? And what camp did you go to?
I always went to Camp Hiawatha when I was a kid. I started going, I think it was after 4th grade.
Okay.
So I think I was like 10 or 11, I think. Yeah, and that was the first week back then that you could go, or the first age you could go for a full week. So I think that's why I ended up going.
And so you went to Camp Hiawatha. Do you remember anything about your early days at Camp Hiawatha?
Of course I do.
Of course.
Yeah, I don't know. Those first couple years that I went, I was just hooked. I don't know, just the environment at camp, the people that are there, it's just infectious. You can't go and not love it. You can't go and not find something that you like. And it was those first couple years that just, I knew I would be there forever. I knew I'd come back, and I wanted to come back as a counselor. So
when you think about, what was your favorite part of camp when you were in elementary school?
Yeah. Well, I always loved the music. I always loved singing. I loved the campfires, and just worshiping God in that way was the most amazing thing. And seeing those counselors who were just crazy and jumping around at campfire and just being so enthusiastic, I think had such a huge impact on me, and was really what made me want to come back.
Right. So as we progress through your years here, junior high now, you're in our FINK program. What do you remember about FINK? Was it, be careful now. This is near and dear to my heart. Don't hurt me too bad. But what do you remember about thinking? Was it an important part of your journey or just kind of part of your journey?
It was a very important part. My confirmation group was made up of me and my cousins, and my mom and my aunts were my Think leaders, and then also close friends who were my age in the church. And it just was such a good environment to really be able to talk about my faith and to really have those really good conversations and to learn all those new things. So yeah, it was definitely a very defining point in my faith to be able to go through confirmation in that way, I think.
You did Sunday school and camp and Think with friends and certainly with cousins that you have in this congregation. How did that, or did that help you not only live your faith when you're in this building or the old church building or a camp, but at school? I mean, how did that, was there a carryover, or was
Absolutely,
that carryover
yeah.
difficult?
No, it was great. Just having that support system at church that also, like you said, carried over into school, into sports, into my friend group. It was so important, I think, in developing those relationships and to really carry out what we learn and to be a good Christian and to take it back with me when I was at school and when I was participating in all the things that I participated in high school in those years. It was very important to me and to my friends too, I think, and was a huge influence.
Great. So now you're in junior high. Are you still going to camp?
I was going to camp through junior high. I went from 4th grade to 9th grade, and then also did the senior high camp after my sophomore year of high school. So after 10th grade.
What's that senior high camp like? Or how is it different than maybe a normal camp week?
Yeah, when you're a senior high servant, it's called something a little bit different now, but it's kind of the same idea. You're there for 2 weeks, and you're not doing like the regular camp programming that the kids do. You're kind of in there and doing service work and fixing up the camp and doing whatever we can around the camp to improve it and make it better. But at the same time, still having those important conversations and Bible studies and just really connecting with the other people that you're there with, but kind of on a more mature level and a deeper level.
And learning that service learning events are part of faith. Serving is part of faith.
Right.
I think it's James. I know it's James in the Bible. It says faith without works is dead. So all of a sudden you're literally working and sweating, but you're doing some service to help the camps. All right. When I think about service projects now, I remember 4 years ago, coming up on 4 years this summer, we went to the National Youth Gathering.
Yes, we did.
And on the way down there, we did some service projects in Peoria, Illinois, I think, and Memphis, Tennessee.
Right.
Again, serving, being part of one's faith journey. What do you remember about, no, you're in high school, later high school maybe even. Is that after
It was after my junior year.
After your junior year. What do you remember about the youth gathering and any role that played or the serving there?
The youth gathering was kind of like a wake-up call to me, like about how huge like our community is throughout our whole nation of youth and just leaders in the ELCA. And it was so amazing to be in the Superdome in New Orleans and to have, 30,000 youth just, it was like a giant campfire service. Like it was crazy. It was the most amazing experience. And yeah, like you said, just being able to be there with all those people and to do those service projects and just to see the influence that we're having. And it was the most amazing experience. And I was also, it was kind of a struggle for me. I had just had surgery and I was being wheeled around in a wheelchair. So to have that struggle and to still be able to give back and to help and serve was eye-opening.
I, for one, really appreciated that you had a knee brace on at that point in time where we pushed around in a wheelchair because we got down on the floor real close to the front.
We got you right down there, thanks to me.
Thanks to you. Moving forward, you're off to college.
Yep.
How's faith part of your life in your first year of college, maybe?
Well, it was kind of those first couple years of school where I kind of got away from my faith a little bit and kind of got away from camp. And there was a couple summers where I wasn't at camp, and I had kind of been toying around with the idea of being a counselor, but I wasn't sure. I was really nervous. Like I didn't know if like I had taken so much time off. Like would it be the same going back? But it was after my it was about last year, my sophomore year, that I just decided, and I felt that it was the time to go back to camp. And I don't really know what it was that kind of made it click for me, but God was calling me in
I was
some
going to say,
way,
I
guess.
know what it was. I know who it was.
Right.
And you got there. God was calling you. God
Yep.
was nudging you. God was, yeah, I like that. So you went to camp. What's the difference now between being a camper and being a counselor on staff at camp?
Well, believe it or not, there's not that much difference. You still feel like a camper. You still feel like you get to every day just be with the kids and be with them and just like immerse yourself in that and just experience what they're experiencing and guide them through camp and through learning about their faith more and just giving them the tools that they need to discover things and be more in touch with their faith and be able to talk about it and express it and things. So
Tell us what a typical day at camp
typical day. There isn't a typical day.
There's no typical day, but kind of. I mean, you wake up all
Right.
the time, so it starts out the same.
Yeah, we
anyway.
wake up at the crack of dawn.
The crack of dawn?
Not the crack of dawn, but pretty early for
Do you
our
get
college
coffee?
student. Yes.
Okay.
Well, the counselors are all like chugging down the coffee to survive the day.
Okay, good.
But
I saw the other day that caffeine's a food group.
is it?
It is.
It's good to know. For you, maybe.
But someone told me that so is sugars and fats, and you don't take that in quantity.
Right. Well.
Anyways. Typical
Yeah.
day.
So we wake up in the morning and we start out right away with our morning devotion. Either it's something that the counselors put on the support staff, or sometimes like a certain cabin is designated to kind of.
So this is the whole camp together?
Yep, the whole camp gathers. Well, for Hiawatha, it's under Grandfather Pine. So yeah, we do a morning devotion and just kind of start out the day right to get on track with what we're going to learn throughout the day and what our kind of goal is to teach the kids. So yeah, we'll do the morning devotion, then we'll eat breakfast, and then from there we will have Bible study and our morning worship. And
You skipped one important part of my memory. After breakfast, we always had to go back and clean our cabins.
yes, we do have capers. They're called capers.
Okay, just wondering.
Every cabin will have a chore.
And I was a little bit obsessive when I came to that for the sweeping. The buildings aren't there anymore.
Right.
I would get a flashlight out, and I'd shoot it
Who's that
along the
camper?
floor, looking for any pieces of dust, because I wanted to win the prize, whatever it was.
Yeah, we still do that. We have our cleanest cabin award, and then you get to dress your counselor up all crazy at the end of the week. So
All
a fun
right.
thing we do.
Okay, so so we get past that caper or whatever it was
Yep.
called, and then you move on to Bible study or
Yep.
worship, or
Usually worship's first to kind of set up the discussion that's going to go on for Bible study. And Bible study is kind of different than what you think it'd be at camp. There's usually like some kind of activity the counselors lead their kids in, like kind of a team building thing, and maybe like doing some skits and things like that before we really kind of delve into the questions and the texts and learning about in greater detail about those kinds of things. So.
Bible study and worship. Now, this is the second kind of worship experience of the day, and we're not very many hours into it.
Nope. But that's what it's about, right?
All that worship. Can you all understand all that worship?
It's not all that worship, though.
Oh, it's not all that worship. All right.
Well, it's different at camp. It's singing and jumping around and skits and it's just keeping the kids engaged and keeping them having fun, and that's what's so important about camp is.
So worship can be fun?
Of course, it's always fun. No, yeah, it's really great. Kind of beginning of the week, kids are kind of like hesitant. They're not really sure what to expect, but by the end of the week, after seeing us counselors going crazy all the time, it's just so much fun to see the kids engaged and wanting to kind of worship in that camp way.
All right, so then after worship and Bible study, we're on to lunch again.
Lunch.
We eat a lot of camp.
A lot of awesome camp food.
A lot of awesome camp food, especially Camp Hiawatha.
Camp Hiawatha. Jan's cooking. is the
Jan's
best.
cooking.
It's great.
Just a note here, we do have two camps, Camp Hiawatha and Camp Vermilion. A number of years ago, they merged together in an organization called Voyageurs Lutheran Ministry. But this congregation has a longer history with Camp Hiawatha. So if it sounds like we're biased towards Camp Hiawatha, that's why.
I'm really not.
That's where I went as a camper also when I was in elementary school. And so there's that strong connection there. So we're not trying to avoid Camp Vermilion. Camp Vermilion is an awesome camp too.
Absolutely.
You're there probably more than you were
Yeah,
at Camp
definitely.
Hiawatha, right?
Yep.
Let's go back to the day. The afternoon is more activities and free time.
Yep, there's like a little bit of free time for the kids to kind of just be able to do whatever they want at camp, because there's just so many things to do, so many resources. But then we'll dive into, we call them grovers, or kind of just like slotted time periods where there's like all kinds of activities that the counselors will lead for the kids to do. So the waterfront will be open. There'll be like all the different, like basketball, different sports, soccer, kind of anything you can think of, ultimate frisbee. And then there's also like crafts, friendship bracelet making, classic camp. Just all kinds of different things. I've taught like a yoga grover and just different fun things.
That almost rhymes. Yoga grover?
Yoga grover.
Yoga grover.
Yoga grover. But so there's just all these different engaging activities for the kids to do to kind of be at camp, but also be with their fellow campers that are all there for the same reason.
We're going to fast forward, skip some of the afternoon.
Yep.
We get to eat again.
Right.
Well, there's canteens open in the afternoon sometime.
Yep.
That's where you get to go and buy
Snacks
junk.
And junk.
Junk food.
Junk food.
That's what I meant, not junk. Junk food. We eat supper.
Yep.
After supper.
There's all camp game.
An all camp game.
For a lot of campers, it's the most, like the best thing of the day. It's a giant game that the whole camp plays, like Capture the Flag, or there's lots of different
remember
games.
Capture the Flag.
Capture the Flag.
And we
kids.
always wanted Luther Swenson on our team. He was a cool counselor.
There you go.
All right.
You got to have the good counselors on your side. No, but yes, so the all camp game kind of brings everyone together, kind of winds the kids down, wears them out for the night, running all over camp. But yeah.
And then it's starting to get dark.
It's starting to get dark.
And that means
Campfire.
Campfire.
It's my favorite part of camp, like I said before. Just the singing and the being crazy and like jumping around the campfire and just having so much fun. That's my favorite part of camp, I think.
And yet the focus isn't jumping around and being crazy. That's the all part to get the kids
It's
engaged.
To get the kids, yeah. But it's worship. It's another one way that we incorporate worship into camp, kind of in a more fun way, in a more interactive way. But yeah, so singing songs.
And then it's bedtime.
And then it's bedtime.
And do you have a final word type thing in the cabins?
Yeah, we do a nightly devotion.
Another devotion?
Yes, but they're so much fun. It doesn't feel like a devotion.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Lots of times for worship, lots of time for learning.
Definitely.
What about on the weekends, you as counselors, all travel up to Camp Vermilion because you've got counselor cabins there.
We have staff cabins.
Staff cabins there. What's that like for you now? Now I want to come back to your faith development, your faith formation.
Well, it's kind of like relaxing and like getaway for us on the weekends at Vermilion because you have a hectic week with all these crazy kids and activities going on and you're just constantly busy. But the weekends at Vermilion are so great. If any of you have been up to Lake Vermilion, it's absolutely beautiful there. And it's probably the place where I feel most connected to my faith and most connected to God anywhere in the world. But yeah, it's such an amazing place to relax and just reconnect from the long week. And for me, I think I've just grown so much from having that time with my fellow counselors and my fellow staff members and just having those amazing conversations and just growing as a community and as really close friends. It's been really great.
What's the hardest part of, what's been the most difficult part? A part of struggle, if there's been struggle, for you at camp as a counselor now?
I think the hardest part is you're going to have those campers that are loving camp, have been there 5 years in a row and are so enthusiastic, but you'll sometimes get those campers that, need to be brought in, need to be engaged, and it's really challenging sometimes, but it's kind of my favorite part is making those kids who it's maybe their first time at camp or maybe haven't had the most amazing experience, like being that person to make them want to come back and helping them develop their faith and helping them be able to talk about their faith and just.
And that's kind of daunting.
It is.
After all, you are a Lutheran.
I am.
You have to talk about your faith?
Yeah, I do. It is challenging, but I don't know. I think that from the example of the counselors and the example that we give to the kids, it just creates this environment where they feel safe and where they feel like they can ask questions that maybe they wouldn't have asked before because they were embarrassed or were nervous or didn't know how to say things. But just having that community and that group that you're in with your cabin and becoming such good friends with these other girls or boys that you're with for the week, it's great. It really helps me and helps our mission to bring those kids in and to bring them closer to their faith. So,
closer to their faith. Let's talk about your faith. When did Jesus become most real or real to you?
Well, it was definitely at camp. We do this thing each week. It's a clown worship, and clowning ministry is a ministry where, at camp, us as counselors will dress up as clowns and we'll paint our faces and we'll act out stories and skits, and there's no talking. It's like completely mimed, and it's just a really powerful experience. And this last summer, every week we acted out Jesus' story, so his Jesus dying on the cross for us and his resurrection, and I remember seeing that for the first time at camp when I was a camper, and just being just so in awe at it. And it was just kind of the first time I had seen it actually acted out by these people, these counselors that I looked up to so much, and to see the emotion there and to see how it affected them and how passionate they were about it was so amazing. And now it's one of my favorite parts of camp, getting to do that as well for the campers, and just giving them that eye-opening experience where it kind of becomes real for the first time.
That's neat. I want to look at our text just a little bit. So we have a text from Isaiah 43. The people of Israel are in the wilderness. Mm-hmm. It's been a tough time for them. They've been in exile. And God comes and says, yo! He might not have said yo. But he says, I'm about to do a new thing. Do you not perceive it? Or something like that.
Right.
When you look at this text, mm-hmm. through your lenses,
right.
the lens of your life, the lens of your life at camp, mm-hmm. what do you see in that text? What does that text say to you, or how do you put yourself into that text?
Yeah. Well, I think that camp is kind of one of those things, and the people at camp are those people that are kind of doing what God was saying there, giving these people, giving them a way for them to perceive, for them to see Jesus and to see like his story, and to be able to give these people the opportunity. And I don't know, it kind of paves the way, I think, for
so
kids.
What you're saying is that as camp counselors, as mm-hmm. staff, mm-hmm. you become that prophetic voice almost with these kids to say, yo, and you can say that, yo, God's doing a new thing.
Exactly.
Do you not perceive it? That's what we're about here.
Right.
Okay. How about the other text? John chapter 12. Jesus is having dinner with Lazarus and Mary and Martha, his good friends. Mary takes $1 gazillion worth of perfume, puts it on Jesus' feet, wipes it with her hair, and Judas, looking over, says, I don't think you should have done that. Do you see yourself in this text anywhere?
Definitely. I think there was those few years where I got away from camp, and I think I was kind of Judas in a way, and looking at camp and saying, do I a summer at camp, that seems like a waste. And now looking back, I'm like, what was I thinking? But kind of in a way, it was like, well, I could work and give money to camp. Like, do I need to be there? You know what I mean? And I think it wasn't until I kind of got that calling, or whatever you want to call it, to be at camp.
I'd call it that.
That I kind of realized that that's not what it's about. It's about giving everything you have and giving it to something that you're really passionate about. And for me, that's camp. And to be that person, to show the kids that that's not what it's about. It's about giving it all to Jesus. And I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. I want to conclude with asking you a question, the why question. Why should parents or grandparents send their kids to camp? Why should congregations like Salem Lutheran Church, both as an entity and as individuals, support Voyageurs Lutheran Ministry so that there are camps for the kids to go to? Why?
That's a tough question.
Well, yeah, it's open-ended though.
It is.
It's not a yes/no question.
It isn't. Well, VLM's mission statement is providing Christ-centered spiritual growth, leadership development, and outreach in God's great Northwoods. And I think that being supportive of camp is so important, because it gives kids that place where they can go and they can discover things. It's where we reach out to the kids. We bring them in. We try and give them a place where they can feel comfortable and feel at home and have a place that they can say, I went to camp and I loved it, and that's where I learned about Jesus. That's where I made awesome friendships and where I grew in my faith, and that's what my experience was. And I want every kid to have that. I want every kid to be able to go to camp because it's so amazing.
That's awesome. Part of what we just did here is something that I hope that each of you can be practiced in doing too. We are Lutheran, so we don't like talking about our faith, but we are Lutheran, and that means we are people of faith. And so I'm hoping that certainly when I'm on sabbatical and there are people speaking that members of the congregation speaking on a Sunday morning, sharing their faith, that this has been an inspiration to them, but also that all of the above can be an inspiration to each one of us, to help us to be able to articulate our faith and the importance of our faith. We got that this morning from Whitney. She shared through the lens of camp. There are lots of different lenses that we can share through. Whitney, I want to thank you for being bold and courageous and not only willing, but I'll say eager to be part of this day.
Definitely.
You're on spring break as of yesterday.
Yep.
Yay. And I'm glad that you were able to be here today. And thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right.